Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Franklin Tomorrow and Breakfast with the Mayors. And what a beautiful day, and I'm so thankful that you're joining in online. We've got a few people here today, and what a blessing it is. Man, we live in such a wonderful place. We're so grateful for our mayors and the difference that they make here. And, you know, so many people are moving here, right, because it's such a great place to live. And so let me bless this morning, and then I'll turn it over to Mindy and Patrick as we have a great program today. Father, thank you for today. God, thank you for all that you're doing, God, in our lives and in the world. And Father, we know these last 13 months have been just unprecedented, but yet, God, you have been faithful. And so I pray, Father, that you continue to give us wisdom, Father, as we live our lives in this day and this time. I pray for our mayors, God. Bless our Mayor of Franklin and Mayor of Williamson County, and be with Ken and Rogers. And thank you, Father, for their wisdom and their leadership during this time. God, thank you for our schools, all of our teachers, Father, for our first responders. We just pray a blessing over everybody in our community. And I thank you for Franklin Tomorrow. I thank you, Father, for the vision of all the leaders here in our community. And as we join together, as we lock arms, God, in our day, our time, our generation, to live our lives for you. And so bless our community today and bless this time this morning. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Amen. And Mindy,
thanks so much,
sure.
Jeff.
Thank you.
It's great to be here. It's great to be at Rolling Hills and see a small audience of our sponsors and partners here. But I'm Mindy Tate, Executive Director of Franklin Tomorrow, and this is Patrick Baggett, our Board President. So
Good
glad
morning,
to be here
Mindy.
this morning.
Yes, glad to be here. And again, thank you to our sponsors, many of whom are here today, including Gresham Smith. We've got Rodney Chester, Al Pramuk, and Jessica Location. We've got Williamson County Association of Realtors in the house today. Mike DeVork and Lori Lehman and some others. Thank you all for being here. We have Hazen and Sawyer, Patterson, Hardy, and Ballantyne Public Accountants. And Mindy, you know this, but we could not do what we do at Franklin Tomorrow without their support. And we keep our events free. Here, the Breakfast with the Mayor, all of our events free of charge, and could not happen without our partners.
And we don't have any representatives here today from Pinnacle Financial Partners, but they are a presenting partner. And then we'll see on our panel today, Nicole Volk from Williamson Medical Center, who Williamson Medical Center is one of our sustaining partners for Franklin Tomorrow, and we appreciate their support. And it does help us keep events like Frank Talks and Breakfast with the Mayors free. And we're really hopeful that come July 27th, all of you can join us here in the auditorium again at Rolling Hills to be here together and network and be in person. We've got a few things going on right now.
We're in the middle of one big initiative right now. Many of you here and also virtually have participated in our Civic Index assessment, a self-assessment, and some of those conversations that we've had throughout the community. We want to thank Gresham Smith again and Volk Materials for sponsoring that. But this is a continuation of our the City of Franklin in partnership with Franklin Tomorrow. We were named the National Civic League's All-America City in 2020. And this is an extension, a self-assessment of the Civic Capital that we all have here in Franklin, the things that we love and enjoy about Franklin, the 7 characteristics of Civic Capital, taking a self-assessment. You can find that on our website,
franklintomorrow.org.
franklintomorrow.org.
And it's not too late to participate in an in-person event or one of our virtual events, or host your own in your neighborhood. We're encouraging people. It's very simple to do. Gather people in your backyard for a fireside chat, or if you're comfortable, have them in your home. But it's a small group to talk about, as you said, Civic Capital. And a lot of people wonder what that is, and it is the formal and informal relationships that have made Franklin such a great place. It's things like engaged residents, collaborative institutions, recognizing and embracing diversity and equity, 7 characteristics of a great community. Then you take the survey afterwards and rate whether you feel those things to what degree exist in our community. So we're hoping to continue this through early to mid-May, and there's still time, and you can reach us to find out more, or look on our website for the remaining dates, public dates that are already set, or create your own.
Please take a few minutes to complete the survey online, franklintomorrow.org. Civic Index survey, and we look forward to hearing your feedback and your response.
And then we're working with Chandler Thinks, which is a local research firm that will help us analyze the results from the survey, and we'll release those mid to late summer, and then plan to get together again this fall as a community and have some conversations about what the survey and what the results indicate from there. So we're going to get started with our mayors. I'll have Mayor Rogers Anderson and Mayor Ken Moore come up and join us and give us a little update. Who wants to go first?
Rogers. He always gets to go first.
Here's a mic for you, Rogers. This one.
Where are you going to sit, Rogers?
Y'all-
You asked me for something this morning. I gave it to you, and then you went and sat with somebody else.
It's your city. You need to talk first.
No.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. Thanks again to Rolling Hills for always opening up the facility here for us over the many years, and Mindy for you and the board planning for this, and always great to be standing up here with Ken. Good to see our school superintendents sitting side by side as close as they can get in the hospital. Nicole, thanks for being here. So a little bit about what's happened in the unincorporated area of our county over the last 14, 15 months. We are beginning to get back to some kind of normalcy in our facility. On the realtor side, the month of March, as I have reported over the last several weeks to other groups, that we had a record-breaking building permit for the month of March in the unincorporated area. Normally during the month of March when it's wet and we don't have as many building permits that come in, somewhere between 35 and 50. In the unincorporated area, we had 103 during the month, single largest month that we've ever had for building permits in the unincorporated area since we've been keeping records. So we are behind, and we ask for your patience in getting those out. I was talking to several developers over the last couple of weeks, and they continue to buy the large tracts of land and breaking them off into 5-acre tracts as required now currently by our zoning and done by the Planning Commission. I think during the COVID period of time, we did see some reduction in that, Ken. People just couldn't get out, couldn't market the homes, the businesses, but oh, how that has changed since about January, February in our community. My hats go off to the schools. Very difficult time for them. I know they'll address that, but for Jason and David, both of those men have led a campaign during the last several months that they just couldn't win. It's kind of like the mask mandate where you put it on or take it off. You're going to make some people uneasy and not pleased with it. Speaking of the period of time during the 14 months, a lot of decisions, a lot of communication was going on. Certainly I rely on Ken a great deal and the city mayor. But we had all of the city mayors on phone calls in those early days 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, trying to determine and assess where we were in this healthcare crisis. We also had several people on from Williamson Medical Center and other physician base that was getting us good data. And we had many city managers from all of our 6 cities feeding us information so we could make the best decision for our population at the time. And I know that Jason and David were on many of those calls helping to feed that information to us about the situation at the school. So personally, I say thank you because so many of those decisions that had to have my name on it, not only because of the executive order by the governor, but many decisions were made by the schools, whether it's Franklin Special or Williamson County or Ken, and so many other the city mayors across the area. And wrapping up my portion of this morning, and I know there'll be questions you may want to ask. As of yesterday, we have given out shots at the Ag Center, nearly 80,000 shots. People have gone through and received their vaccinations out at the Ag Center, which was a blessing for us to have a facility like that you could drive through, never get out of your car, either in the early days of the testing or now through the vaccination. And we're approaching nearly 145,000 people now that have been vaccinated in our county. Yesterday, the census came out, Mindy, and I'm not sure exactly what that number is for Williamson County yet. They're kind of being guarded with that. It reminds me of government at its finest. They just feed you a little information all along. But we're estimating we'll be north of 245,000 people. And so if you're looking at vaccinations, we're approaching that 50 percentile of people that have had at least one shot. And I know there's a lot of negatives that are currently going on about it with the J&J, but the schools have given shots to their teachers. The hospital has given shots and vaccines to many of the employees and to many other businesses in town. And we've certainly done our fair share out at the Ag Center. So that's kind of a window snap of what's going on.
The census came out, so I did see the state will keep 9 congressional seats. We do know that we'll only have 9 congressional seats. Mayor Moore?
Well, good morning, everybody. And Jeff, thank you so much for hosting us. And it's always so great to be here, and certainly appreciate those blessings that you give, and also that prayer for wisdom. And this has been a challenging last year or so. And I think Roger's point there about how we worked together during this pandemic is something that just can't escape saying again. Roger's leadership on this and the consensus building that he's done during these very challenging times has been great and so appreciated. You all know my passion for education, and particularly for our community college here, who was named by the Tennessee Board of Regents the top TBR school in the state of Tennessee, so we're excited about that. And certainly as we move out of this pandemic, there's going to be an increasing role for that, and I'll try to highlight kind of where I'm coming from. I'm going to focus on 4 different areas this morning, and the first one will be economic and workforce development. And I think we need to look and see what got us where we're at right now. And we have an extremely educated workforce here. 60+% of our people have a college degree. We have many of the top corporations in America, and I think the thing that's so striking is that 20% of the management jobs in the entire state are located in this county. So as we look forward to what's going to happen as we roll out of this pandemic and whatever the new normal is, we're well positioned to continue to be a leader in our state for generating economic activity and being the leader in our state of Tennessee. There've been a lot of lost jobs. I anticipate that community colleges and our institutions are going to have an opportunity to retrain many people as we move out of this. So there's huge opportunity. There's also concerns that we've identified as how do we work moving forward? How much is virtual? How much is back in the office? And also we've seen this huge challenge emerge as far as childcare is going to be a challenge that we now recognize moving forward. Transportation, I don't know anything that's had a harder reset than transportation during the pandemic. And we're back to the same traffic counts that we had pre-pandemic already, but the patterns have changed. We're not out of the transportation solution problem yet. We have to look harder. I think my focus for the next year or so is going to be more and more on how we can move our folks locally. We have the Cool Springs Transportation Study. We're working regularly with the Franklin Transit Authority to find solutions, and I know our staff is looking hard on what some of those solutions are to move forward. Housing, Roger's mentioned it. It makes my head spin how active the housing market is right now. But we have a significant number of people that are now cost burdened by housing, which just increases our challenges we move forward. And we're looking, you'll be seeing this year some more progress as far as building affordable and workforce housing on the Hill property. When I say the Hill, it is a hill, next to Sonic on Hillsborough Road, and you'll see projects coming forward from the Franklin Housing Authority, which has been a great partner, and our board has created some financial incentives for people that are willing to build affordable and workforce housing. And then lastly, infrastructure, and when I think of infrastructure immediately, I'm thinking of sewer and I'm thinking of our roads, but more importantly, I think we need to better understand that during this pandemic, there's been a huge demand for people to have broadband availability, and across our state, there's still a significant number of people that don't have broadband or even have the ability to get on the internet. And this is just crucial that we need to continue to leverage those investments that our governor's going to make and the federal government's going to make, so that we can be prepared to make sure that everyone has that access, which is so important. So we're in the middle of budget right now in the city, and things are looking positive. We ended on a positive note last year, which was a little bit of a surprise because we had prepared for the worst. And tomorrow is a special day because it's State of the City. It's going to be a live event, but it'll also be virtual. It's going to be at the Franklin Park Amphitheater there on McEwen and I-65. So we're going to be talking about, and you'll like this, Rogers, because you're part of the program. We're going to be making lemonade out of lemons. And so last year was a lemon of a year with a lot of bitter taste, but there's been a lot of pretty good flavor come out of it, in addition to some real challenges. So thanks for being here today, and good morning to my wife, who I think is watching virtually, and just thanks for the opportunity and everything that Franklin Tomorrow does.
Thank you both. I wanted to ask you a question. As we look ahead this year, this will be a reappraisal year, and how is that looking, Rogers, and moving ahead?
So it is a reappraisal. The reappraisal stopped on 12/31/20. So all the property under the property assessor, Brad Coleman, had to be in the file, so to speak. And so now they go through and assimilate and put those numbers together. All across this state, people do reappraisals on either 4 years, 5 years, or 6-year intervals. We happen to be on a 5-year. This will be the last time we'll do a 5-year, and we'll start doing 4 years, and that's for the entire county. Those numbers will be mailed out here in the next 3 to 4 weeks by state law. I think they're due out by May the 20th or around that period of time. I expect, as you would imagine, that some areas of our county will go up significantly. Others will go up modestly. Because you take a 5-year average, you don't just look at the last 1 year of what's happening. That should also tell you that under state law, that whatever the adjustment is, at the end of that period of time, it has to be revenue neutral. So whatever values they go up, the tax rate has to equal that, so you can make no more tax revenue off from that at that time. So that's just that's a retooling or a restart every 4 or 5 years, but that'll be done in the next 30 days.
So what we're hearing about a hot real estate market right now, where people are paying tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars over an asking price, really won't have an impact on this appraisal process. It would be reflected in a future appraisal.
That is correct. In fact, Brad Coleman was telling me the other day, since January the 1st through the end of the March, you've probably seen prices go up 5 to 6%, which is not captured during this period of time. That'll be captured at the next recyclable period. I also would also like everyone to know that there's an appeals process that you can go through. There are men and women that sit on an appeals board, and once you get your values, if you think they've been over assessed or reapportionment on that, then you certainly can come in and appeal that and explain your reasons for that. Now, I will tell you, you need to come in with some data. You just can't come in and say, I don't think my value of property is, because you really have. You have the real estate value, you have an insurance value that many of us purchase through our insurance company. You have the appraisal value, then you have the selling price, and I realize that there are some homes bringing a premium right now, but that's not what we're looking at. They're looking at what the true value of the appraisal is.
And then finally, there is also property tax relief for the certain abilities to have property tax relief for seniors and other.
Yeah, we're one of the few counties in the state that actually have 3 property tax relief. We have a property tax relief for 65 and older. You have 2 or 3 other programs that are administered and overseen by Karen Parris up in the trustee's office to help those people and those individuals that they just can't make the property assessment. And so Karen's office does a wonderful job on that. You need to do that for this upcoming year of 21-22, and so it takes for tax returns and all of those, but it's a wonderful program that all of us put money in to help offset some of those tax increases for those less fortunate.
Great. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And we're going to welcome our panel to the stage now. Joining us this morning, y'all can stay. We'll talk to y'all too. We'll talk to you all too. But we're going to welcome to the stage Jason Golden, the Williamson County Schools Superintendent, Dr. David Snowden, Franklin Special Schools Director of Schools, Cindy Seiler, the CEO of Mercy Community Healthcare, Lauren Ward, who is the interim CEO for Visit Franklin, and Nicole Volk, the Communications Director for Williamson Medical Center. So if y'all want to have a seat, and you may have to, ladies, you may have to cuddle on that couch just a tad bit, but we'll be okay. Thanks so much, and thanks to everybody for being here. It is a big panel, but we feel like we build this sort of as the year of recovery. But the more I thought about it, I think we want to talk about the year of rebounding. That recovery, I'm sure we've done some of that, and some of you in the healthcare and other industries can talk about recovery, but also Williamson County has probably fared better than some other communities across our state, and more of a rebound perhaps than a recovery. But let's talk a little bit about schools first, because everybody's always waiting as to what you guys are going to do next and what the plan is. And Jason and David, you all work closely together and in contact with each other. But Jason, tell us a little bit about what's happening and how you all are responding in Williamson County schools.
Well, thank you, Mindy, and I want to thank the church for hosting us, like the mayor thanked him as well. This is a great venue, and we appreciate our community partners and all the support we get at the schools. Mayor Moore mentioned that he was going to talk about 4 things. I am going to mention 4 things as well. I'm going to talk about where we are instructionally and academically. I'm going to mention where we are on the safety plans related to COVID. And I'm going to mention a little bit about some new programs. And then I'm going to talk about what we're working on to grow and how we serve our entire student body. So first, about 2 weeks ago, we hit TCAP, which if you're a parent in Tennessee, you know what TCAP is. TCAP, T and Ready, end of course test. It's the state testing system. And that is a huge milestone for us over the course of our school year. And as we hit TCAP, we thought back and reflected a little bit about where we were this year and where we were last year. Last year, we didn't take these tests because the governor had closed schools across the state, and no public schools were in school last year. And we were concerned this time last year whether we could even do it this year. But as we hit TCAP this year, it caused us to reflect and look back at how this year has been. And I have some statistics that when I saw them, my reaction was, we had a great year. We had a great year in a normal year, much less a COVID year. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and these are benchmarks that we look at regularly because it makes such a difference for our students. This year we had 51 National Merit Scholars. This is the third straight year Williamson County Schools has had over 50 National Merit Scholars. 51 National Merit Scholars. We had 3 sophomores get perfect scores on the PSAT. Unprecedented. We have so far 41 perfect ACT scores in Williamson County Schools. That is our highest number ever for our students that have perfect ACT scores. Internally, as we were just in awe at these numbers, we joked that if Williamson County Schools was the only school system in the country taking the ACT, we'd have to renorm the test because our students are doing so well on ACT. Highest number ever. Pretty incredible. Our mission statement talks about challenging students to excel in academics, athletics, and the arts. And I mentioned academics just a little bit right then with some examples. In athletics, so far this year, our students have won 8 state championships. Last year, we won 7. And you know that we didn't have spring sports, those of you who follow that. That was painful for me because one of my favorite times on a high school campus is the spring, where you have boys soccer, track, baseball, softball. If you hit it right, you can see all that going on in the spring. Last year we didn't have that. We won 7 state championships last year. We haven't even hit the spring state championships yet, and I'm rooting for our students to take that next step. From volleyball to football to cross country, our students have done well in athletics. In the arts, I jotted a couple of numbers down. 37 of our students made all-state choir this year. 20 of our students made all-state band. 18 of our students made all-state orchestra. And the state actually started a new all-state program this year for theater, and 12 of our students were members of the inaugural all-state theater group. Academics, athletics, and the arts, we are knocking it out in a regular year, much less a COVID year. So we're so excited about that. On the teacher side, I have to mention a few names, just make it personal. Stephanie Higgs, a gifted teacher at Crockett, was our elementary school teacher of the year in Williamson County Schools. She has won the region, and she is competing at the state level for teacher of the year in elementary school. Maggie Zeilman was named a TEA Distinguished New Teacher. And Jacob Campos, who is the band director at Franklin High, was named nationally a Yamaha 40 Under 40, a national award for Mr. Campos. And I think about the experience of our teachers, and I think about those new teachers who are coming in, that example I gave. The gamut of our teacher skills covers so much. We're so proud of our teachers. So we are excelling in academics, athletics, and the arts, and we're doing well. Of course, we know that we've been dealing with COVID, and you're talking about recovery. A year ago, we made a plan that was based on the goal of having our students on campus if we could safely do so. And everything we did, all of our safety plans were aimed towards that goal of having our students on campus if we can safely do so. Dr. Snowden and I can't count the number of conversations we had because we worked as a team to put that together because we were in the same community, and he may speak to that as well. And so, when you hear, questions about masks, about quarantine that the health department was doing, all of that was because we fought hard to keep our students on campus. We do measure ourselves against Tennessee, but we also have a benchmarking group, about 10 school districts across the country, high-performing school districts in metro areas that we benchmark ourselves with. And that ranges from Metro Phoenix to Metro Chicago down to Metro Atlanta in places in between. And we've had many conversations with those peer districts. If you know the Phoenix area, it's Deer Valley. If you know Chicago, it's Naperville 203. In Atlanta, Forsyth County, those growing high-performing school districts. And when it comes to being on campus, we have found that we've done incredibly well. We're the only district of those high-performing benchmarking districts in those metro areas who drilled down, rather than saying, okay, a whole school needs to go off campus, if we got quarantined by the health department and we could narrow it to just a class or narrow it just to a grade level and still keep those other students on campus, we kept them on campus. Mental health is a huge issue in this country, and folks are really, in a lot of ways, just starting to recognize that. We've been talking about it for decades. We have clinical help in our schools. Our numbers, our referral numbers, are pretty much on track with prior years, but anecdotally, we have seen more references to isolation. That's been our experience. But that isolation, it's key for us to have students on campus so we can combat that, and I think we've done an incredible job with that. I know I can't take everything, so I really want to mention real quickly, the state has started a summer school program for what they call learning loss to address that. We will have summer school for rising 1st through 8th graders, plus we've had a program for rising 9th graders for years, so that's a new thing that's coming this year. And then finally, I want to mention that many of our young alumni and students have told us, have become comfortable in telling us that with all these great things going on, they have had some experiences where they faced discrimination over the past few years, where either they reported something and they didn't see the results that they hoped for, or they were afraid to report discrimination. And so we've heard our students, and we started working on a strategic plan to hear from our community about their needs and fears when it comes to our serving our diverse student body. And we are going through the process right now of listening to our community so that we can develop goals to help every one of our students feel safer in our schools. And we're working with a company called Fostering Healthy Solutions. So I want to invite everyone to get on our website, look that up, because we want to hear from our community. We want to do what's right for our community. That's my synopsis.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jason. David Snowden, tell us a little bit about what's happening in the FSSD.
Well, first, thank you to Franklin Lamar and Rolling Hills for hosting this today. As Jason said, back last spring, 14 months ago, we were having a lot of conversations, and we all know that students learn best in person. That's not to say that virtual learning, remote learning cannot be successful, because it can be. And I think our teachers have proven that it can be effective. But our goal was to have students attend in person and do it in as safe a method as possible. And I just like to think the only way that happened was through the great support and cooperation of our parents, our students. People told us, well, students are not going to wear masks. They're just not going to do that. Our students have been phenomenal. It's amazing that it just seems so, it's not natural, obviously, but they have been really troopers. Our parents have been supportive of our mitigation protocols. Our teachers and staff members, they should all be put on a pedestal, in our opinion, our administrators, because think about the creativity they've had to really concentrate to do, because school looked so different. We wanted to make sure that we provided the academics that needed to be, and then still have a safe environment. So that was difficult. Teachers had to do that all the time. Plus, when teachers are out, you have to have substitutes, and substitutes were not at a great supply. So principals had to be extremely creative in organizing the school day. Our school board has been phenomenal in their support of our efforts and our Return to Learn plan. our government leaders, our mayors, county commissions. It's really been a cooperative effort, and I think, well, I know that our schools would not have been successful without that cooperation from all those individuals and all those groups that I just mentioned. Going to mental health, well, first of all, let's go back to the extended closure and talk a little bit about, we knew social and emotional support for our students was going to be extremely important. Our teachers, I think, did a fabulous job reaching out during that extended closure, phone calls, home visits, to stay in touch with those children to make sure that they were okay. And that was, I think, appreciated, number one, by the parents, and number two, by the entire school community. So we're still facing, when we came back, we knew that social emotional support for not only students, but teachers would be important. Because remember, every one of us were isolated to a great extent. So even that support continues today as we try to monitor and provide grace and dignity to our employees, as well as being supportive to our students. As Jason mentioned, we have our cooperative venture with Mercy and our mental health, and that continues to be important as we move forward, and we look forward to that continued partnership as well as growing that partnership. I have to mention food insecurities because many in our community have food insecurities. And I'm very proud of the effort that we made in providing food and nutrition across this community last year. From March the 19th to May 21st, we provided over 103,000 meals. That was just in that short amount of time, because we knew not only were our students facing food insecurities, but many members of our community, and it was not only just the Franklin Special School District, but that was the entire community. And then in June and July, we provided over 85,000 meals. So we think that was a great community effort, and we are so thankful for the people that on our staff and then supported the community as well. The other thing that we saw, going back to the social and emotional support, is that early on, part of our mitigation protocol was to have temperature checks prior to students entering the building. And we didn't get a whole lot of bang for the buck, so to speak, with the temp checks. We haven't so far, but we've continued that. But here's a byproduct of those temp checks that we didn't even realize was going to happen, is that one-on-one, some adult seeing every student prior to their entering the building. And our principals have said this has been a phenomenal byproduct, as I said, of temp checks. And we're not going to continue to do temp checks, hopefully, in the future. But we are going to figure out how we can reach and have the opportunity for those students to see someone, an individual, an adult, prior to coming in. Because, you know, schools, you open the doors and students enter and they are housed maybe in the gymnasium or auditorium for a while prior to school starting. But our principals are really determined to make this happen because they see the benefit of it. And I know Mindy only gave us 5 minutes, so I think, Mindy, I'll be quiet and wait for questions.
Well, I appreciate that, but because we've got some people to hear from about, I think we'll start by talking about healthcare and rebound and how this year has been. Certainly 2020 was a year of difficulty and challenges for both Williamson Medical Center and Mercy Community Healthcare. But Nicole, tell us a little bit about how Williamson Medical Center is rebounding and ready now that we're emerging, hopefully, from this pandemic situation.
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay? Great. Thank you for having us. And I'm really happy to be able to tell that story because as we've been talking about, emotional and mental health is so important right now. And we're finding at the hospital that one of the healing processes is telling our story and kind of reflecting back on what's happened and where we're going to go from here. So if I could just take a moment to tell our story and what happened here in our community with COVID-19, I think will be healing to all of us. So a year ago on March 3rd, or a little over a year ago on March 3rd, Williamson Medical Center received a call from the Tennessee Department of Health requesting that a test be administered for an individual who had recently traveled out of state and possibly had been exposed to the novel coronavirus. We had already established an interdisciplinary team of experts in preparation for this moment. As our emergency room staff members, suited in full protective gear, coordinated the administration of tests outside the hospital, our team realized that the virus they had been preparing for had officially arrived in our own community. 2 days later, on March 5th, that test came back as the first positive COVID-19 diagnosis here in Tennessee, right here in Williamson County. So we were at the forefront of that, for sure.
We like to be first, but probably not in that arena, right?
No. So a couple hours later, many of us here in the room were on a national press conference. That was the most media I've ever seen in one room. It was pretty crazy. I never thought I'd go through that in my career. And so the unprecedented year that followed was one that we could never really had prepared for. None of us could have. But from protocols to policies, through fatigue and fear, the Williamson Medical Center team showed up and cared for the community through the most challenging health crisis in our recent history. The test, we had many other firsts. We were the first hospital in the state to administer convalescent serum to COVID-19 patients. We were ahead of the trend in using reusable gowns to conserve PPE. As everyone knows, that was a big thing throughout the pandemic. It's not as much anymore, but in the middle of it, the PPE was a big issue. And our staff was among many frontline workers invited to participate in research studies. And I put together pages of our timeline, and it was over 7 pages long of all the firsts and of all the milestones that we hit. So we were, the first in the county to get the vaccines. And just a lot has changed. We had a moment of silence last month to reflect the 1-year anniversary and just commemorate the sacrifices that have been made over the past year as we heal and as we work as a team. We feel like we're a stronger team than we've ever been. We're more connected, in our own walls and even here in our community. And I think we're only going to be better for that moving forward. And we just always want to thank our community for their strength, bravery, of course, our workers, our employees, and our staff for all the comfort they provided and all the hands that they held through this really scary time, and then our community for all of their support and encouragement. And also thank everyone for really, helping us to be that trusted source and that expertise in our community, and, helping to follow the guidelines that we were setting forth. And, as we move out of this pandemic safely, cautiously, we have to, of course, as we enter flu seasons and we enter other seasons, the social distancing, and then the vaccines. The vaccines are the thing that's going to get us truly out of this and back to our normal lives. They work, they're effective, they're safe, and we just encourage everyone to get vaccinated. And, we want to continue being that expert and that source of truth in healthcare for our community. So if you ever have any questions, we're always here. People can email me, and I'll pass it on to the experts. And we just want to help educate everyone and really, safely move forward together as a community, as a whole community, because that's what still remains very important as we do this together.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And obviously, Williamson Medical Center is our county hospital and is recognized in that way. But Cindy Seiler from Mercy Community Healthcare, you all have a story to tell as well. How did your situation change over the last year, and where are you today with Mercy Community Healthcare?
Thank you, Mindy, and I'm going to thank the mayors and do as everyone else has done, thank the school system, thank the hospital. We are honored to be here, and I'm honored to sit on the panel this morning. Mercy's mission, we exist to reflect the love and compassion of Jesus Christ by providing excellent health care to all and support to those families. And that's where we've been. this past year. In 2020, we saw over 11,000 patients because of the loss of work, because of isolation and mental health. There's been a definite need in the 22 years that we've been in existence and been a piece of history in this county. We have seen, again, loss of jobs and a place for us and a purpose for us to share body, mind, and spirit integrated care for all. A lot of folks don't realize that Mercy, as a part of essential service and a part of the public health, worked hand in glove with our Department of Health. They are awesome with everything that they've done that Mayor Anderson talked about, and with our hospital. We could not have done what we've done, and we partnered well with Williamson Medical Center, and so we're very, very grateful. What we did as far as change goes, folks may not know or understand that we provide primary care to adults and children. We're not Mercy Children's Clinic anymore. We are Mercy Community Health Care, but we also provide psychiatric services and behavioral health counseling. And the needs of those services increased dramatically during this 2020 of isolation. So one of the things that we did to change, in addition, or as the medical center did, we have screeners, we did temperatures, we changed our process. Our task force for COVID jumped up, and 9 physicians and 8 nurse practitioners, we worked together and over 30 nurses and 20-something counselors worked as a team to address the safety of our patients and the safety of our staff. I have to say, just as Nicole did, our staff were healthcare heroes, like so many in this county, that stepped up and did the work that needed to be done without hesitation, dedicated to our patients and to our mission. And part of that was we were blessed to be able to open telehealth for the first time. And Dr. Golden and Dr. Snowden both referenced that. We were able to be in 27 schools with our counselors providing telehealth. And we want to thank our church partners in this community, because not only did we get the calls that said, we're praying for you and we need to do what we can to support you, but we actually were asked, what do you need? We'd never done telehealth before, and the licenses are extremely expensive. And so I said, well, we need to do this. We need to step up and be in the forefront and take care of our kids in the schools, take care of our patients that are afraid to come in. And so we had several churches that stepped up and actually paid for those expensive licenses. So we're extremely happy about that. I will tell you that as a community health center, we have performance measures that we have to follow and quality indicators that we have to comply with to take care of our patients. And whether there were, when things were closed down, whether there were a few in the clinic or whether there were a plethora of folks receiving services, we chose to use that term that so many of us are sick of hearing, and that is pivot. Pivot in the COVID-19. And we used it as a positive. Our P with pivot was to pray without ceasing. The I was to be innovative. We have had Saturday vaccine clinics, and we've incorporated that into our regular flow. 8 to 9 every morning we have vaccines. 70% of our staff are currently vaccinated, and I think that's increasing daily. The V for in pivot was to verify the facts. I think, as Nicole mentioned, we heard everything, whether it was true or not, and so we verified before we moved on. The O was to optimize every opportunity. Again, the telehealth services that were available, to be able to work with schools as we have. We are so grateful and respect what both you men did. You were in our prayers a lot. And then finally the T, we just walked through this trusting God. And so now we're in a moment of recovery. All things new, right? Most of us don't want to talk about the new normal. We just want to say, let's just start over and let's do this. But Mercy Community Healthcare wants to be a place of hope. We want to continue to serve. And these folks that have lost jobs and lost insurance, that's who we're here for. That's what we want to do. And we do it well. We do have quality services. We're going to continue the vaccinations, as Nicole mentioned. That's important. And the need and demand for the mental health services and the isolation that's been here, we're doing everything possible to continue that telehealth and those telehealth services, bringing folks in, but also allowing them to be home and care for themselves and their families. Body, mind, and spirit, integrated care for all is what we try to do, and that's what recovery looks like for us, Mindy.
That's exciting to hear, that focus, and it's exciting to know that you all are in partnership and your services exist for anyone in our community, whether they have insurance or don't have insurance.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Yes.
Great.
Can I say one more thing?
Uh-huh.
I forgot to say this, is we also want to encourage people not to delay their health care. We have seen that, and we're still seeing that. Mm-hmm. Keep your appointments. Get your regular exams done and your regular preventative care, because that's still a little behind, and that is so important as we move forward too, because all of us, I think, now understand how important our health is.
Well, certainly, thank you so much. And certainly a sector that's been heavily affected and impacted through this COVID crisis and pandemic has been hospitality and tourism. And we have Lauren Ward, who's the interim CEO of Visit Franklin, our Convention and Visitors Bureau, here to talk about now that we're moving forward and rebounding, right? Is that what you're seeing in the hospitality and tourism industry?
Yes, absolutely. Is my mic on? Okay, we're good now. So first of all, I want to thank the mayors for their leadership over this past year, and also our education and healthcare professionals. We are very blessed to live in a county with such incredible leadership. The hospitality industry has taken a huge hit this past year, and I'd love to start with talking about pre-COVID numbers for economic impact, just to show you a little bit of comparison. So in 2019, the tourism industry brought in about $497 million. That's about $1.36 million a day spent by visitors. We are, the sixth county in this state out of 95 counties for tourism spending. So we are the top county in the state as far as tourism is concerned. We brought in 1.81 million visitors in 2019. And then obviously COVID came and visitation dropped tremendously. We typically sit at about 80% occupancy in our hotels. And this time last year, April of 2020, we got down to 14% occupancy. So it's been a slow climb back. We sat starting in October up until about a month to 5 weeks ago at about 30% occupancy in the 30s, and now we have jumped to the 50s. So we've been very encouraged over the past month in the spring as far as the rising occupancy is concerned. You'll see around the county on Main Street and the weekends is definitely starting to fill up with visitors, which is very encouraging. And what we're seeing as far as national data is concerned, which Williamson County has been trending right along with national data, is that we're going to see a lot of travel this summer. And July is going to be peak travel for visitors. So 71% of American travelers right now have travel plans between Memorial Day and Labor Day. So it's going to be a slow climb, though. Williamson County is known for business travel, so we've always been a strong midweek travel destination. In addition to hosting meetings, groups, conventions, we also have that business traveler that comes throughout the week. The weekends are doing great right now. Our hotels many of them are sold out. We're seeing a lot of that leisure travel, people coming in for spring break or family trips, but it's going to take a while for that business traveler to come back. We know it will come. We just know it's going to be a little bit longer for them. As far as recovery is concerned with our team, over this past year, we immediately put together a one-year recovery plan that we're getting ready to complete, and we're putting together another one-year recovery plan as we know that the tourism industry is going to take a couple of years to get back fully to that 80% occupancy. Thankfully, Williamson County is well positioned to bounce back quickly. We offer a tourism product that people are interested in. We are a place where people can slow down, relax, which research is showing that's what people want to do coming out of the pandemic, is come somewhere that they can enjoy beautiful outdoor scenery and activities and just relax with their family and friends. So we're well positioned in that aspect, and we're well positioned as a drive market destination as well. People are becoming more comfortable with flying as we move into the summer, so we're able to open up our advertising to those fly markets. But advertising to drive markets has been really important to us throughout this entire time, reaching people who are interested in road trips who were uncomfortable to fly. So the biggest thing from a marketing perspective that we've focused on throughout the pandemic is safety and making sure that people feel safe whenever they're traveling to Williamson County. So whenever there was a mask mandate, we talked about that. We also worked with our hospitality partners to understand what they were doing from a safety perspective and just make sure that our visitors feel comfortable, welcome, and safe when they're in destination. And finally, just to echo what you said about vaccinations from a travel perspective, vaccinations are, I believe the number I saw was 95% tied to travel. And so visitors, as the nation becomes more vaccinated, as more vaccines are distributed, we know that visitors are going to come back, and we know that distribution is happening quickly. So I'm very, very hopeful for the bounce back of tourism as we move into the summer and fall months. It's just going to take a little bit more time.
That's great news. And I've seen those people on the weekends walking down Main Street. They definitely are visitors, holding hands and having a great time, or families seeing them in downtown, and that's great to see. I'm going to ask one question and ask you to be very brief, and each of you may respond or you don't have to, but what aspect of COVID-19 response would you repeat, and which would you change? What has come from this that you feel has been a positive that we can look at as we reflect and rebound from this past year? Anybody? Jason?
Well, I went first last time, so I'll go first again. We had 3 focus areas before COVID hit, and it was to think in terms of students first, to be empathetic to our students, and to not go it alone. And especially in that context when COVID hit, looking back, it enabled us to get past so many of those federal and state rules and be creative about finding solutions for students. So I believe long-term that's going to help us, rather than quickly saying, no, we can't do that because of blank. We're able to analyze it and find ways to solve issues for students and do a better job of serving them.
Creativity is one. Anybody else have a different answer or a different word?
Well, my immediate response was the teamwork, community-wide and within our organization, just the depth. So I echo what Jason's saying. It's just that newness of being able to work as a community and look for every way possible to make something happen.
I agree with that. We all know we can't do it alone, but that's on a whole new level now of how we are all stronger together, and I think we know so much more about that now and how important that is. So
great. Thank you all so much for being with us this morning, and we've crammed a lot of information into about 45 minutes to an hour, and we appreciate that. We have a lot going on. Franklin tomorrow has a lot of exciting things ahead, including right now our Civic Index that is ongoing, and you can find information about those dates on our website, franklintomorrow.org. But also next week, we'll be participating in the Community Foundation's 24-hour giving program called the Big Payback. That starts on May 5th at 6 p.m. and continues until 6 p.m. on May 6th. And we'd ask for your support financially, as would other nonprofits there are over 100 nonprofits from Williamson County participating in the Big Payback. So support our community through that program of giving. We will continue to host our monthly and quarterly breakfast with the mayors, and we hope that in our July events we will return to in-person events. The next Frank Talks is on May 10th, and our next breakfast with the mayors will be July 27th, when we hope that you'll all be with us here at Rolling Hills Community Church. Also, don't forget tomorrow, the mayor's State of the City address. It'll be on virtual. You can watch that starting at 11 o'clock. Correct, Mayor?
Correct.
All right, thanks so much. Thanks to our partners, Pinnacle, Gresham Smith, Williamson Medical Center, and Hazen Sawyer. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the support of our community most of all. Thank you. Go out and make it a great day.